All right. Okay, welcome to Exceptional Educators Playbook. My name is Chasity Craft. I'm a literacy consultant here at KVEC, and I have Miss Vonda Adams with me today. She's one of the math consultants here. The purpose of this podcast is to offer professional learning opportunities to meet the needs of our teachers while giving the teachers a platform to share your expertise. So every month we will highlight a different topic that every educator needs to know. Each week that topic will be broken down into content-specific categories. Week 1 will be literacy, week 2 is math, week 3 is behavior, and week 4 is low incidence. So today we're going to be talking about instructional strategies and literacy. And I am excited that we have with us today Mr. Tyler Branham. He's a special education teacher at Pikeville Independent School, or Pikeville High School from Pikeville Independent. And Tyler is going to share with us how he uses some instructional strategies in his classroom and provide support for his students, and also some barriers that he's encountered. But I kind of did introduce him already, but I'm going to let Tyler just introduce himself just because. So Tyler, go ahead, introduce yourself.
All right, so I'm Tyler Branham. I'm at Pikeville Junior High and High School. I teach grades 7 through 12. I'm an FMD teacher. I teach students in special education with moderate and severe disabilities. I've taught for 13 years, 12 of those here, 1 year in Rowan County. And I've got 4 kids, and I stay busy. I'm looking forward to getting back to some type of normalcy here, hopefully this semester. So here's to hoping for that.
Oh, thank you, Tyler. And so, as we had mentioned earlier, when we did our introduction, we said that we do math, literacy, low incidence, and behavior. And Tyler actually could have been a guest in either of those because, and then I'm sure that's the case with many teachers, especially in special education. You may not focus on just one or the other. So Tyler pretty much covers all those bases for us, but we're going to kind of focus on some instructional strategies for today. So we may get you again, Tyler, who knows? But anyway.
I'm a jack of all trades and a master of none of those. So.
Oh, yeah. Well, we may beg to differ on that one, but. So we'll go ahead and start with let you share with us a couple of effective strategies that you've used in your classroom.
Okay, specifically for literacy, one of the biggest instructional strategies that I do use is constant time delay. And it is a strategy, like for example, if you are learning sight words using flashcards, it's a strategy that really has 2 sequences to it. There's a teaching sequence, and then there's a practicing sequence, or so to speak. And so in the first sequence, in the teaching phase, there's a 0-second delay. In constant time delay, when you get to the practice sequence, you're going to set a time delay from when you give a directive to the student. And typically it's between 3 to 5 seconds. When you ask a question, you want 3 to 5 seconds for the response. You give them 3 to 5 seconds. But in the first sequence, it's always, because it's the teaching phase, it's a 0-second delay. And so when you're teaching sight words using flashcards, say for example, you have 5 sight words, new sight words, the student's never seen them before, he doesn't know how to read them. You have 5 flashcards with the word written on the flashcard. You're going to give a 0-second delay. And what you're going to do is you're going to, for example, you're going to say this word is, whatever the word is, and you're going to ask the student, what is this word? You're going to ask for an immediate response with 0-second delay.
So for example, you would say this word is the, what is the word the? Is that like
right.
that? Okay.
You'll say this word is the, what is this word? and you're wanting them to say the exactly as soon as you finish that question. That's a 0-second delay. That's in the teaching phase. And if they get it correct, if they say it correct, then obviously you give praise, feedback, and then you'll say a statement like, "That's right. This word is the. Good job," and then you move on to the next word. If the response is incorrect, like if they say, this word is then, or they mess it up and it's not the word the, you don't necessarily want to give negative feedback, but you want to steer them with immediate corrective feedback. You want to correct that response right then and there, and so you'll go right back to this. You'll say, "This word is the. What word is this?" And then you'll do that until you get that correct, and then you move on to the next word. So it's kind of in my opinion, a no-fail, kind of a safe way to introducing new words. And so that's the first phase. That's the teaching phase of constant time delay. Now, when you introduce, or when you move on from that, after you've introduced, all 5 words, you will implement either a 3 or 5 second time delay where you'll present a flashcard and you'll say, "What is this word?" You will pause for 3 to 5 seconds while you wait for a response. Maybe the student answers it quickly. Maybe they take the 3 to 5 seconds, and you're using a stopwatch, or you're watching the second hand on your watch. And so you wait for their response within that time frame. If it's the correct response, you're going to praise and say, "Good job," and do like you did before. "That's right. This word is the. Good job." Move on to the next word. Now, if there's hesitation or if there's no response within that delay window, you're going to say, "This word is the. What is this word?" So basically, it's the same. It's a really easy instructional strategy to implement. It's a really easy one to use. It's a good way to model, and it really focuses on helping students memorize content, memorize sight words, and you can do it really in just about any content area: letters, letter sounds, numbers recognition, those types of things.
And I like that too, because you had mentioned a couple of things. While you're doing that strategy, you're also providing opportunity for repetition, and the practice turns with the corrective feedback, which we talked about that's also important for students, is to get that corrective feedback immediate, because that's the most effective for those kids. So when you're doing that strategy and following those steps, you're providing all of that within that short few seconds, really. And so and like with the with that wait time of 3 to 5 seconds, especially with sight words, that's a really good example that you use, because if they don't know it in 3 to 5 seconds, they don't know it. So, and then they know that you're going to go ahead and give them that prompt. So like you had mentioned earlier, you mentioned the word safe, and that was a good way to describe that, because they know if they don't know it, then it's okay that they don't know it, because you're going to give them that prompt until they do know it. So I really like that one. One other, you had mentioned, because we had talked before Christmas break, that you use a lot of manipulatives and visual cues and things like that. Talk a little bit about that, how you use those.
Yeah. So obviously it's a lot easier, I think, with when you're teaching math and teaching math strategy, but you can do it with literacy too. You can use letter tiles and things like that. I mean, you can even go as far as, if you're working on spelling, I've seen people, and I've used it before, using shaving cream or Cool Whip, on like a pan or on a plate or something. They spell out words, and that's a 1st century approach to doing it. But I think it's important, especially in special education, to provide students with multiple opportunities, different ways to, get that, get their knowledge out, give them different ways to express themselves, because not everybody learns the same way. But it's important that they see it, that they hear it, that they do it, that you model it correctly, and then that you continue to provide opportunities to where they can repeat those skills over and over and over, and they just become, like a rote memory thing. It becomes natural.
Absolutely. Well,
anytime we can make something here hands-on, or provide some kind of concrete materials, or some kind of real-world application to what we're doing, to the skill we're doing, it really makes it more meaningful, rather than it just being paper pencil all the time.
Absolutely. And what you just described is what we call the multisensory approach. You said that was one sense. So you're using the different learning styles of auditory. Some kids learn better. They have an auditory learning style, a visual learner, or the kinesthetic. So with those strategies that you're talking about using, you hit on all of those. And we're talking this morning about the universal design of learning, giving those kids opportunities to show what they know in different ways, not just paper pencil. So were you in our meeting this morning, Tyler? So you're exactly right. And that is when
there's a time delay. He's not hearing everything as quick as you're saying.
I think there's a time delay in the internet's unstable, so it's kind of messed up. But yeah, so it's just real important. And then also that active learning. So the more if they are involved and they're doing that learning instead of just listening, if they're sitting and listening to the teacher just sit and talk, then they're not retaining that. But if they're actively doing it and participating, then they're going to, like you said, it's going to become natural to them, and then they're going to learn it, and they can add it into their learning toolbox and move on and get higher and move on throughout the curriculum and things like that.
Right, which is that explicit instruction. That's what he's talking about. And I do it, we do it, you do it. So you're modeling. You've been speaking of that as well.
How did you discuss that your data collection method? How did you use the data, or what data did you use to determine what strategies to use with your kids?
Well, with special education, progress monitoring, data collection, different methods, using different methods is paramount for us. I mean, it's so important for us to be able to not only see progress, but to be able to record progress so we can show growth. We don't always remember everything that we do see, but we can, put it on paper and collect data in a way that's meaningful, in a way that shows growth. So, I mean, as a special education teacher, I use so many different ways of collecting data. There's authentic ways, there's indirect ways, but mostly, like, for example, with using constant time delay to teach silent words, I'll use just a simple, checklist with, the words that I'm teaching, and I'll just do a simple plus or minus if they got it correct within the delay period or not, and we'll go from there. And in special education, we write our goals that way, that show what progress monitoring tool we're going to use, and so that just kind of backs that up. But I'll use anything from checklists, work samples, teacher-made tests, probes at times, because you have to be able to see growth. If your student's not making progress, they've got to change. The instructional strategy's got to change, or maybe even the content is too advanced for that student. So. And that's where you go back to really knowing, when you do progress monitoring, you first collect the baseline data. You want to know where the student's at, and then you meet them where they are, and you take them from there toward the goal that you have in mind. So
of course, during the time that we're in with the virtual learning, the use of technology is vital in our teaching and student learning. So can you share with us just a little bit, you can briefly just talk about how you what you used and how you're assisting your students with the technology, those barriers. And we can kind of, I think some of the barriers we talked about that is in with the technology. So we can probably kind of combine those two, talk about the barriers that you face and the technology into one, because I think it was kind of hand in hand on that one.
Yeah, so I tried several different web-based software programs, different ways to get instruction out, get assignments out, and finally came around to one web-based software program. It's called Seesaw. I actually found out about it from our elementary school because my son's using it in first grade, and it's an incredible way that of allowing students multiple response methods. And it kind of embeds some creativity with it in letting students kind of show what they know in the way that they're most comfortable, because not everybody's comfortable being, videotaping themselves doing something. They're more comfortable maybe just recording the audio, or maybe they're more comfortable taking a picture of their work, or you can even record the screen to show what, how they're doing something, how they're solving a problem, or how they're writing something or spelling. But it's a software program. Now, it does have some free components, but I'm not real sure how far that will get you. We do have a district license.
And that is, I'm going to chime in right here just for a second. And that is SEESAW.com.
Yes.
And it is, I logged into that and made an account just to kind of see, what you could do with the free version. And it is worthwhile. There is enough there, the free version, that I think that teachers could use, that if that's something that they wanted to, if that's something they needed, because I like the idea that students can have choices in their responses, so that you do get that with the free version. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, good. But yeah, I think that's one of the best, I think, parts of it, because it's, not everybody is comfortable responding the same way. And so you can use the drawing tools, you can record your voice, you can record video, you can take pictures. It gives the students ownership. It can be interactive, because one of the barriers that I have with remote learning is being able to provide that immediate corrective feedback. When I'm in the classroom, I can walk over to a student, or we can work together or work in small groups, and I can provide that feedback right then and there, and we can, move on. With remote learning, that's not always the case. And when I finally settled on Seesaw, it's not as immediate as it would be in the classroom. But when a student submits an assignment, I get a notification, just like if you have it set up on your cell phone, if you download the app, it'll send you a notification that so-and-so's completed this assignment. And you can go directly to that assignment and view what they've done. And you can either send it back to them with a little note, or you can even record your voice saying, hey, good job on this, but would you look at, this part again and resubmit? And so that's kind of a corrective feedback. It's not necessarily immediate, but it's close enough.
Yeah.
For me,
Wow.
And another barrier for me was face-to-face interaction with my students. I think that's the biggest thing, that's the most important thing, I think, in this field, in education. When you have a relationship with a student and you can develop a positive relationship, and they figure out that you care. You've heard that old saying that people don't know how much you know until they know how much you care. And that really, it rings true in really every, in coaching, in sports, in any job, and especially as a teacher and student, that relationship, when they know how much you care and you really want to see them be the very best that they can be, that's huge. And I think that's a huge barrier with this, because I have some students that are totally learning from home. And I have some that starting back next week will come back in person a couple days a week, because we're going to start back on our hybrid plan, our hybrid schedule, and they come 2 days a week and then 3 days online. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
So that kind of gives me an opportunity to actually see them face to face, in person. Because, even with technology and even with opportunities to interact through Zoom or through Google Meet or whatever, or FaceTime, it's still not the same. There's still some awkwardness to it. And then you have technology problems. I mean, you have connection problems. You have homes that may have not had internet before this pandemic started, or they may still not. But I mean, I haven't had that issue, but I'm sure there are some, in our state that's had that problem.
Yeah.
But another great thing with Seesaw is that families can get involved. Like the family can connect. You can connect their email or their cell phone or whatever to that app, and they can be involved. They can, it just increases their involvement with their child's learning. And so I think I'll probably continue to use Seesaw even after this pandemic is over, because it supports remote learning for me. But I think it's going to be a good supplement for maybe some independent learning, some independent work, to kind of further their learning on whatever topic we're learning about. So.
Right. Just again, providing that more opportunity, that practice, giving them more practice and making it more automatic, but making that automaticity. And two, your communication with your parents too, and your families, just if you can use that too. So that's a good one. If you don't care, we have about 7 more minutes, but I thought to mention about the QR code, how you did that for the student login, because I think that would be very beneficial for teachers. What it is as we all know, when students are trying to log into their Chromebooks, that you have a password to log into your Chromebook, and then you have a password to log into your Seesaw account, and then you have a password to log into your Google account, and our kids have a hard time with that. So Tyler tell us about that, have that QR code, how you fix that.
So whenever this started, I set up all my students with a Chromebook that we were able to loan from our school, and I sat down and I tried to get into their shoes for a minute and try to figure out, well, how can they access what it is I'm trying to get them to use on this Chromebook. And so you sit down and you think of all the steps that they have to do in order to get to where you want them to go, and I think that's one of the barriers. I mean, when you have to sit down and type in all these different logins and passwords, then it takes so much more time, and you could get frustrated if you're typing in the wrong thing. And so another great thing about Seesaw, and they need to put me on the payroll now, because I'm promoting them pretty good. But that's a great thing about Seesaw, is they have 3 different ways that you can log in to their thing, and one of them is the QR code. And what it looks like is one of these right here. And all the student has to do is put this up to the camera, and it will automatically log them in, and boom, you're done. You don't have to type in anything. They can get right to work, and just be like, it's like kind of like walking in the classroom and sitting down. It's that easy. Right. So they don't have to type in the email or type in this big long password with all these different characters, and so that really eliminated a barrier, and I think increases access to learning.
Yeah, and that was even a barrier before we got sent to virtual learning, because when you had stations in your classroom, especially in the resource room, if you've only got them for 30 minutes and you want to set up stations, and it takes them 20 minutes to log in, because with those school emails, the STU dot Pikeville, and then they've left out
It's
an
eating
L
15
or-
minutes of their time.
Yeah, so it was a nightmare. So that would definitely help with that. Let's see. So you said that you use the Seesaw, and then a lot of with your students, you call them and you talk to them on the phone and text. You have that kind of relationship with your students as well.
Yeah. Normally with if I'm communicating with parents, it's through text, or we'll call, or they'll call me, or I also use the Remind app. You can also get it on your computer, on your desktop. But you put in all your parents' emails or cell phone numbers, and it's like sending a group text to a bunch of people, so you don't have to contact everybody. If you got 10 people or whatever, you don't have to contact each one individually. You can just send out one message, especially if it's just a schedule change or a reminder just about something coming up on the schedule. So that's been an easier way for me to communicate.
So, and then our last, I've just loved a lot of information that you've given us today. The strategies and that progress monitoring is phenomenal. So for the last question, to kind of take us out, what advice or final thoughts would you like to share with other teachers that you think that would, because I started to say new teachers, but even experienced teachers that's going through, what advice or final thoughts would you like to share?
I'll just go back to the relationship aspect of it. I think that's the most important thing. Truly get to know your students, get to know who they are. When you do that, you figure out, how far, where you need to go. When you figure out who they are, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, what they're interested in. And then, that's what they want, that's what they need. And it really helps you as a teacher to be able to design lessons or help motivate the student when you figure out who they are and what they're interested in. When you develop that relationship, I think it just makes them work all the more harder for you because they know that you care and you really want them to succeed. So that would be my biggest advice is develop positive relationships with your students and with their families, because, you want to have good working relationships with their families. You want the families to know that, you care about their child, not just from between 8 and 3, 5 days a week. You care about them all the time, and you want to see them succeed and go out, after high school, after you're done with them. You want them to want to contact you, and if they ever needed help, so. And I've got those types of relationships. I'm thankful for that. I've had, several reach out to me after they graduated, and that's just kind of become part of your family, so.
That's awesome. It is. Well, we appreciate that, Tyler, and thank you for joining us today. We want to thank you for everybody for joining us for this week's session of Exceptional Educators Playbook. I'm excited that we learned about the constant time delay and the multisensory strategies that Tyler uses in his classroom. And I love how he mentioned about building the relationships and also that universal design of learning. For deeper understanding, resources, and more specific strategies and tools, you can visit the Literacy Podcast Google Classroom with the class code XLZLGGS. You can email me at chasity.craft@theholler.org. And also, we have a Facebook page that we encourage you to like and follow. It's called KVEC Exceptional Children. And also follow us on Instagram at KVEC EC. You can also visit theholler.org And under KBEC and under KBEC Special Education, we have a Google site that has all of our previous podcasts along with tons and tons of other information that you would find helpful to help you in your classroom. So we hope that you guys can join us next month. We're going to talk about co-teaching and collaboration. So until next time, we'll holler at you later. Bye.